I mentioned last week that I've been revisiting companies that did exceptionally well during 2020 and seeing if they are still a good investment for 2021. The stock that we'll be taking a look at this week had an exceptional growth period during 2020, and that company is Square. So let's play the intro so we can take a look at Square's stock. Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Matt, and before we get started here, I just want to say Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Also, remember that this is not financial advice, so don't take it as advice. If you need advice, find an advisor. This is just for your entertainment purposes only. Also, if you like this video, it is a 5-cent donation for charity, and if you subscribe, that is a 10-cent donation as well. Now, I'm sure that most of you are familiar with Square. I know I've talked about them many times on my channel before, but we've never really focused solely on Square, so I wanted to spend some time and really take a deep dive into this company. In case you're not familiar, they were started in 2009, co-founded by Jack Dorsey, who's also the co-founder of Twitter. And they were originally a solution for small businesses to be able to accept credit cards or debit cards. Until Square came around, most small businesses that you would see, whether it's at like a flea market or a farmer's market, could only take cash. So this was a relatively revolutionary idea for small businesses and allows for them to expand their business while also being able to track more data about what sells, inventory management, and all of that good stuff. Since then, Square has diversified their business and is now a parent company to a few other operations. Most notably is Cash App, which is similar to Venmo, allowing for you to transfer money to and from other people relatively easily, and they also incorporated a brokerage platform on the Cash App as well. Another name that falls underneath Square's belt is Weebly, which is an online hosting platform. Square also released their own e-commerce platform, which should compete directly with Shopify, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them. And most recently, Square announced that they are acquiring Tidal, which is Jay-Z's music streaming service. Now, we'll touch on all of those a little bit later in this video, but for right now, I just wanted to focus on the numbers here for Square. Now, for this week, again, I'm not doing a comparison to Square because I've done those comparisons before in many of my other videos, and as we've been kind of seeing with some of these companies, the numbers here are not that exciting, so it's going to be a relatively quick section, but let's get that pulled up so we can take a look. As we can see, Square has an incredibly high PE ratio of over 500. It's at 553.09, meaning that this could be a very expensive stock to own. They also are probably the most volatile stock that I've reviewed on Watch This Wednesday with a beta of 2.61. Now, usually I don't like companies that have such a high beta, but it's kind of justifiable. It's almost justifiable for Square because of how much they've grown over 2020 and with the direction that this company is headed in, being such a leader in the fintech space and kind of stepping outside of the box of what we think traditionally for banking or payment methods. Nonetheless, though, they have a very impressive revenue growth year over year of over 100%, coming in at 101.50. So this company is growing their revenue in a great way, and that's partially because of their ability to diversify their business and not just be focused on the payment platforms that you see at the food trucks or farmers markets. They also have an earnings per share growth of 5%. This isn't something I've actually pointed out on my channel before, but I thought it was important for Square at least, because when you look at a lot of the metrics that Square has, they are a very expensive stock to own when it comes from a valuation standpoint. Earnings per share growth, though, is more of a fundamental metric, and I think that Square shows that it has really strong fundamentals. You can see this through the revenue growth, their earnings per share growth. So they're doing a lot of things to grow this company in a way that gets investors excited, but the valuation is what makes this a little less attractive. So I think that there's two ways to approach this, and for a company like Square, I do like to look more at the fundamentals than the valuation standpoint, because as we've seen in today's market, valuations just don't make a whole lot of sense anymore. But lastly, a quick ratio of 1.23, nothing that I'm too excited about. At least it's over 1, so that's okay. But I thought they would have had a little bit stronger of a cash position than what we see, but I guess that could also be from some of their recent purchases that they've had, as well as having a heavy investment in Bitcoin. Now, while the valuation standpoint for Square isn't that attractive, they do have a few opportunities looking forward into the future that I feel are very exciting. Now, the first one I do want to touch on is this acquisition of Tidal, Jay-Z's music service. And I'll be the first to admit, when I read the headline that Square was acquiring Tidal, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard, and it made no sense. Well, of course, once you kind of look under the hood and read a little bit deeper into this, it actually makes more and more sense and gets me more excited about this. So let's just quickly discuss this. What makes a payment system interested in a music streaming service? Well, it actually has to come down to the way that artists receive money. As we all know, or as you might have heard, when Spotify first came around, there's a lot of artists out there that were actually trying to boycott the platform because they said that they weren't receiving enough money or payments through people being able to use their music, or that they would just receive more money through the traditional album sales. But since streaming has really become the way that we consume our music, it's really become the only option for artists to actually get their name out and for people to enjoy listening to their music. Where Square comes into play is it could allow for artists to be able to receive almost like a virtual tip jar, where the fans of the musician or the band are able to donate money to them. I think this could also be a great way for some of the smaller bands out there to be able to raise money to release new music. Being in a band has a lot of costs that are associated with it, whether it's being on tour or renting out a studio so you can record your own music. I actually know of a few bands that previously in the past had to start Kickstarters so they can release a new album. I think where Square comes into play with Tidal, though, is it could allow for these bands to raise money through their fans so they don't have the need to go through a Kickstarter. You know, if you really like one band, and want to just be able to donate them $5 for what they're doing, you can easily do so through this service. I think this could be a great opportunity for artists out there, not only to be able to raise money so that they can either go on tour or come out with new content, but also to be able to get their name out there in a different way, because again, both of those, going on tour and releasing new albums, does allow for the artist to grow their presence and potentially attract a new customer base, helping them receive a little bit more money. So again, while this is something I was not excited about at all at first, I am very excited to see how this plays out. I know SoundCloud is also doing something similar on their platform as well, so I think this could be something we'll expect to see more and more of in the future. You may have also heard that Square has made a huge investment in Bitcoin. Now, I actually decided to do a little bit of math here, and I saw that they spent around $220 million between October's purchase and the one at the end of February on Bitcoin, but it's already allowed for them to receive well over $220 million through profits. So they've already doubled their money through these purchases. Now, I do have a little bit of a bone to pick when it comes to companies owning Bitcoin, and that's just simply because it's still a volatile investment. I've become more accepting of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies over the past year or so, but when it comes to having a large investment in it as a company, I do question how that could affect their balance sheet. As we saw with the quick ratio, Square definitely has cash on hand, but we've seen Bitcoin rise high before and has also dropped dramatically in the past. So it's something that I don't question really these large purchases anymore, because there's something obviously that these leaders are seeing that maybe I'm missing. But I am curious to see how that overall will affect their balance sheet in the future. Obviously, right now it's doubled their money, so it's paying off, but I just wonder how sustainable that'll be in the long term. And if it is very sustainable, then they'll be in a great position down the road because they own a lot of Bitcoin. Also, very recently, Square received their banking charter. Now, I don't know if the banking charter is going to be for Cash App or Square or how that's all going to be incorporated, but it's just another way that Square is continuing to grow their business and add new features to bring people to their platform. As we know that they made efforts to having direct deposits for people to receive stimulus checks through, and I think having this banking feature is going to piggyback on that initiative that they have. When I think about the way that we do banking or investing in the future, 10 years from now, it raises the question of, will the same big players that we have today still be around 10 years from now? Now, my answer there is probably, but it questions, will they be as prominent? And for that, I say no. I really do believe that companies like SoFi, PayPal, Square, Affirm are changing the way that we do payment processing, as well as banking and even investing. So we're starting to see a huge change in the way that we transfer money to and from each other, whether that be personally or through employees. I could see there actually being a day where you might receive a paycheck through your employer Venmoing you. So it's something that, again, I don't necessarily believe I have the vision like Jack Dorsey has for how this looks in the future, but Square seems to be the one, once again, really leading the pack with the way that they're changing the way that we process payments or even do our banking. So I think 10 years from now, Square might be the biggest player out there when it comes to financial solutions. Now, this is all very speculative, obviously, and this is just my opinion, as really most of this video is. But it's something that I really do feel is worth just pointing out because it's something that I feel is very promising for our future. So for those reasons, I did decide to add this to the portfolio. Now, worth mentioning, I added only around $2,200 worth of this because it's an expensive stock right now, and there might be a better buying opportunity in the next few weeks or few months for us to hop into this. But at least this way, if this stock does go up to $300 a share and doesn't really go down much further, we still have some form of exposure to it right now, which I'm comfortable with. Also, I need to mention, somehow, some way, I updated the Webull platform and I lost everything that I had in that portfolio. Luckily, it was just fake paper trading money, so I don't really care about it that much, but it is upsetting to know, what is that? We were probably like 20 something stocks inside of that portfolio are now gone. So Square will be the new one will be the first one in the new portfolio, but I wanted to ask all of you, leave a comment below, is that something I should continue with? Do you enjoy seeing the stocks and how they perform since I've talked about them? Or is that really a no value add? Maybe I should just get rid of it altogether, because I question that, as this is my third time starting the portfolio, but wanted to get the input and feedback from all of you before I make that decision. So let me know in a comment below if you like seeing the portfolio or not. Alright, so now that we're here in the portfolio, as you can see, it looks so lonely. I also just toned it down to around $1 million instead of $5 million this time because, I don't know, $5 million just seemed a little aggressive, and I didn't want people thinking I actually had $5 million worth of cash. Also just wanted to invest in more realistic ways. So anyway, as we can see, Square is up right now, for now, around $34. I'm sure that'll change throughout the day, but a little quick gain, nothing really worth talking further about. But again, let me know if you like this aspect of my Watch This Wednesday videos, or if it's just something I should drop altogether, because my analytics show that most people drop off when I pull this portfolio up, so just let me know your thoughts. Anyway, though, that's all I have to say. So again, happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you out there. I hope you're able to enjoy this day. That's about all I have to say. So remember, if you like this video, though, 5-cent donation to charity. If you subscribe, 10-cent donation to charity. So keep that in mind. You don't have to smash anything. You can just click it very nicely, and it's a donation, which is kind of a cool concept. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me. That's a Jay-Z line, and I appreciate that. But I'm going to let you go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.